Hey, we're back with another lick of the week, and this is December 2nd, which just happens to be my birthday. Hey, happy birthday to me! 44 years old today. Only feel like I'm 43 though. We're continuing the Scruggs video series, and just attempting to get you fluent with all these standard Scruggs licks in G for the first 5 frets. And we've basically been doing some rolling ideas, adding some slides. I kind of want to continue with that and expand upon and build that vocabulary up. For this lick, I want to digress a little bit. I want to go back to the first video where we did the 2-1-5 rolling idea, and with the slide from 2 to 3. What I want to do is add some notes on the first string, and this is a really well-known example of some rolling ideas down in the first few frets that you hear a lot of Scruggs players play. And this is part of many classic solos. Old Joe Clark, the beginning of Old Joe Clark, has this idea in it. And again, I'll play it as 8th notes. Let me fire up the old. Now, what happened there was I used the 2-1-5 roll. Played 2-1-5 again, I added this E note on the first string, and then the next time I played 2-1-5 I add this F note, and then I removed the F note, and then I went into a backwards roll. So let me call the roll out as I play it without the metronome. 2-1-5, 2-1-5, 2-1-5, 2-1-5, 1-2-3. And again, the 2 open at the end is optional. You notice I did a push off. You could do a slide if you like. So that's a really well-known and really a foundational idea. And most of the licks that you hear that sound similar to that sound similar because they're all based on the same premise, which is adding an E and an F note. You can variate this in an umpteen number of ways. I mean, it's almost endless what you can do. Just slight variations like changing the slide, doing a hammer, doing a pull off, do a hammer pull off. There's so many different variations of this idea that this is one you really need to know. Now again, I played that as 8th notes, but it's kind of hard to hear that syncopation because you notice there's kind of a bounce to this idea. It's kind of hard really to hear that bounce unless you speed it up to normal playing speed, which is 16th notes. Sometimes for these licks it's better to start on the offbeat because traditionally that's where they fall in the scheme of a measure. So you could count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and find an offbeat to play. But they can also be moved to the downbeat. It just depends on the feel you want and the licks that are coming before or after. Now again, what we need to do is try to incorporate this idea into some of the ideas from the previous video. So for practice purposes, you can go from one roll to the next, one idea to the next without having any downtime or having to stop and think about it. So you want to become so fluent with these ideas that you can literally string them together and make up your own tapestry, if you want to think of it that way. Make up your own wall of rolls and licks that you can cut up and use any way you want to make solos. So that's one you need to know. Let's go over to some single string ideas. Earl has some really cool single string ideas that revolved around, these fret locations. This is probably the most famous one. Now what's happening here is when I say single string technique, in order to do this correctly, you're going to have to use more than just your thumb or more than just your index. You probably have to use a combination. I mean, at certain speeds, it's okay to maybe use the thumb for this and the index, but if you can get where you can cycle around and interchange these two fingers, then it makes it much easier for you to accomplish this lick, especially up to higher tempos. And what's happening here, this is also syncopated. And you notice there's a hammer push off. So there's a little inflection there with a hammer. So if you're doing this as eighths, the extra push off will wind up being a 16th note. If you're doing 16th note version of this roll, you know, a double time against the metronome, then that would be actually a 32nd note. So it's pretty quick, especially if you play this at upper tempo. So let me dissect it. So hammer from 2 to 3, then push off after the second hammer, open third, over to the 4th string, 2nd fret, and you can either play that note and then the open 4th or do a pull off. It's up to you. This is another one of those licks that can be variated by changing little subtle things like that. Alright, now let me get the metronome going. And again, this lick is syncopated, which means it does funny shifts with the emphasis on certain beats, or actually gets timing of it gets moved around to give it some kind of life, so it's not so metronomical sounding, which can kind of be stale and lifeless. So you hear the difference there in the feel. It's kind of swingy. So one way to syncopate a lick like that is to shift where you start the lick slightly off time or on an unexpected place in the beat, instead of playing it like a robot. And this is another lick that can be played on the off beat. So instead of starting right on the beat, you could go 1 and 2. Alright, so these are the 2 licks I want you to add for this week's video. And what I want to do now for the remainder of the video is I'm going to play some of the ideas we've already covered and see if I can just create a wall of rolls just as an exercise. So add these rolls into your low position ideas, because everything we've covered is really foundational, and just make sure you're really solid on them. Practice with the metronome at 8ths to hear the dynamics, and then speed up to 16th notes so that you can get the true feel of how these licks operate, and then you can get these syncopations right. And that'll be it for this video. See you next time. Thanks.